It's just that simple. It takes only 4 or 5 seconds to step out of the stream of thinking to notice the thinking. And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes to you. The ability to think was an amazing development in human consciousness. Once we started thinking, we began to create in a certain way. But what's more important than the ability to think is the ability to know how to use thought. Knowing how to use thought far succeeds, far exceeds the ability to think itself. Because I think even Socrates talked about this, that human beings learn to think, but not how to think. And how to think is very important because if you look around in the world and just read the news for one page, you'll see that millions of people still have not realized how to use their thinking. A certain way to use your thinking is what we can call awareness, spiritual awareness, but it's just being aware of your thought process in order to cultivate a certain type of experience that you would like, if you will. And even if you like a certain type of experience, knowing that you can be aware of how to use your thought process, even if the experience doesn't go as planned or how you want it, you still use your thought process in a certain way. So, in that sense, your thought process doesn't take over you. You'll be aware that you're aware of the thought process. You'll be aware that there is a thought process going on because there's been times where people did horrific crimes and they say things like, I didn't know what I was thinking, which implies that the awareness level was very low because the awareness of thought was very low. Because if they knew what they were thinking, they may not have proceeded with whatever they did. But the fact that we haven't practiced as a human race, that we need to recognize, not only recognize thought, but how we use thought. If we don't notice how we use thought, then thought is just used. It's not used in a certain kind of way, which can lead to craziness, for lack of better terms, which is okay at some point in some kind of way, because without the unconscious thinking, there wouldn't be awareness of conscious thinking. So, conscious thinking or conscious awareness thinking or awareness thinking is a wonderful aspect to the human race. Once we recognize that we have to know how to use the thought process. Without knowing how to use the thought process, it's just an open air. And whatever thought process can come up to, say, for example, a person has a very negative mind. Whatever thought process comes up to their negative mind, they may act on it, which leads to war and bombings and fatalities and shootings and killings and hitting and fighting, which now we recognize that that isn't the only way. So that's a good start. But if we all can ultimately, awarenessly, if that's a word, or consciously participate in the reconstructing of the mind, and recognizing there's a certain way that we can use this frequency, the mind frequency, then just that would possibly be enough for us to live in a certain way and not have havoc be brought upon on the planet. Noticing thought doesn't take much. It just takes a sense of wanting to, a sense of awareness, a sense of presence. You can't be thinking and know that you're thinking. if that makes sense. There has to be some sense of stepping out of thinking. Like I always talk about the anchors where you shift your attention to your breathing. You recognize the inner aliveness of your body. Look around for a second, even if it's somewhere you've been multiple times. Look around without thought while breathing. Don't forget that. And you'll notice the thoughts that pass through your head, pass through your mind. It's just that simple. It takes only 4 or 5 seconds to step out of the stream of thinking to notice the thinking. And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes to you. And you don't have to do like we're saying here as a practice. It will just be, oh, you see that? And then you'll see the thought, and then you'll act on the thought, whether it says do something or not, or you'll just see the thought and it'll pass by like the cloud in the sky. Very simple. But most people miss that because thought is very provoking and it could be very exciting. Oh, wow. Even if you say, I'm sitting here and every now and then you can hear, wow, nothing wrong with that. But essentially knowing that that's what's happening is what we need and what we should be aware of, not only in the fun situations, but in the situations that can cause havoc or anxiety or stress or anger. Just simply notice that you're thinking, that the mind is going on, and it's saying things, it's commenting. And if you know that you know it as just it's commenting, you can see that the comment can come and it can go. Doesn't need to, every thought doesn't need to be followed along by a description, by an outcome, by something that just has to be. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way with thought. Thought is like, just imagine your mind like the sky, just a empty space. And then the clouds are the thoughts. Sometimes there's a lot of clouds or thoughts. Sometimes it's empty sky, like right now. As I look up, there's no clouds. There's a few clouds over there, like a few thoughts over there, but doesn't necessarily need to be followed. Like if I'm looking at the sky, I don't need to look at the cloud and follow and think where it's going to go and where did it come from. No. You can ultimately see the thought and let it go. That's the essence of being aware of your thought. Not only using thought as a human being, but being aware of the thought process as it comes and as it goes. Because it was an amazing aspect of development, an amazing development in the aspect of being human. But like we said, without actually knowing how to use thought, it can become very dangerous. Thank you for joining me.